Good day, everybody. I'm Alvin Rodrigues, Field Chief Security Officer at InfoBlox. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the Unspoken Backdoor. And the Unspoken Backdoor is the DNS traffic, the DNS platform, a neglected pipe into the organization that many organizations overlook in securing this. However, with this lack of security, the DNS essentially then becomes a vulnerability to the organization. But if used correctly and adequately and cleverly, right, this DNS can become the foundation of your enterprise security. In today's presentation, what I would like to share with you is the following areas. Network transformation. Why is it coming about in today's digital environment? And with network transforming, you need to rethink about the way that you drive security for your network. So cybersecurity for the transforming network, because your network is constantly evolving, as I said earlier. And the role of DNS in the light of this, because DNS is your foundation of every connection that attempts to connect to this network. So therefore, the criticality of securing the DNS. So not just securing the DNS, but also going beyond DNS as part of your security strategy. So there are four main drivers that we are currently seeing that is driving network transformation as a result of the need to achieve digital transformation. Unified communication. So with the rise of COVID, what we find is that we have improved in the way that we collaborate. We have revolved in the way that we communicate. We use Zoom more often now. Even this recording right now is not done in person. I'm in Singapore and it's being recorded in Hong Kong. So the whole geography barriers that used to exist is removed. The rise of the Internet of Things. We find the use of more sensors, the IPv6 being put into many appliances that enhances the quality of our lives. The rise of wearables being integrated into the environment. As that happens, the collection of a huge amount more data. But the point behind that is that you have more connections. And with more connections, you have more points of entry and more points of contact into the network. As I mentioned just now, with unified communication, it has changed the way that we work. Right now, we work from home, right? Or rather, I would prefer to say we will, in time to come, be looking at working from anywhere. And the challenge and the headache and the Hercules heel for security professionals is when people are working from anywhere, how do you continue to maintain that robust enterprise security when they work from anywhere? And one of the strategies that many organizations use to embrace digital transformation is cloud. Cloud is the platform that all of us are currently using to drive greater efficiency, better reach, further reach, as we try to deliver better services, more customer-centric experience to the target audience. But at the end of the day, with all these happening, what is the key message behind this? Digital transformation drives network transformation. Network transformation forces us to rethink the way that we build our cybersecurity. But the underlying message behind all of this is that you have new IP, and there is a relationship between IP and DNS, and therefore you have a rise in the utilization of DNS, as illustrated in this slide over here. So these three diagrams over here shows the rise of data, the rise of connections, and the rise of internet utilization. Year-on-year growth, on average of 6% to 18%. So what we are seeing is an explosion of the need for connectivity, and that's why we saw the advent of IPv6. With IPv6, now we have new devices and new appliances that can come onto the internet where they once were not able to. All these has led to the explosion of connectivity. But with that as well, it also leads on to the increased attack landscape or increased attack surface. So the thing that I want you to think about is what is really driving this. I mentioned about digital transformation, but the thing that drives digital transformation is not because of digital transformation by itself. It's because of the business. Companies are evolving. So they are looking at how do they improve themselves. So when you look at that, when the business changes, when the CEO of a company says that I am now going to look at how to drive a more efficient and effective IT strategy by embracing cloud, that in itself is a business decision that then impacts your network, because now from on-prem, you embrace the cloud. But the strategies that you use to deploy to manage your on-prem network needs to evolve and change, because now with cloud, you then get into a collaborative engagement between yourself and a cloud player to see how you can continue to drive that value to your customers. And organizations, when they look at evolving their business model, they are thinking about what sort of deliverables, what sort of business benefits, what sort of outcomes they want to deliver to their end users. So in essence, when this pivots to here, network structure pivots to here, and now you need to rethink about how you do your security as well, how you deploy your security strategy, because you can't go in with the mindset, I'm going to have a castle and moat kind of strategy. I need to rethink, and I need to think about how do I drive that security such that I can protect my hybrid environment, right, while delivering upon the business objective of protection of the critical assets to allow the company to deliver the business value to the customer. So security strategy needs to change. And when you look at your new triangle, it may look something like this. The point behind this slide is for you to appreciate that between the business, the network, and cybersecurity in this digital age, there is a strong interlocking symbiotic relationship. Because in this digital era, in the fourth industrial revolution, your network is your business. Without your network, you are not able to deploy your business. You're not able to conduct your business activities. We are all reliant, whether is it for internal consumption or whether is it for external consumption, we are dependent on that network to enable us to drive that. And DNS is that foundation of that network. DNS is your first point of contact. DNS is the first point of handshake for any device or any application wanting to get into the network. And as a result of that, it gives you that visibility across your entire network to tell you who is connected, who is doing what. And with that, it can also be your first point of defense. So with the network currently transforming, right, one of the biggest challenges and one of the biggest headaches that many organizations has is, how do I continue to maintain security of this network? So take this simple illustration over here. When an organization used to be on-prem, now embraces cloud, now looks at people and colleagues working from anywhere and deploys IoT application. What this invariably means for the organization is that they cannot and they cannot maintain the castle and moat or the perimeter kind of mindset for securing their environment. They need to rethink that, because now there are more ways into the organization and there are more ways out of the organization. Hence, at this point, it's absolutely critical cybersecurity to be aligned to the business, that there must be that handshake. So the challenge over here is that how do I prepare my defenses such that I can ensure that only the good things come into the organization and I keep the bad stuff out, because there are more ways into the organization. And at the same time, there's more ways out of the organization. So how do I maintain that security? How do I maintain that access into my environment, minimizing friction, allowing people to still do what they need to do at the best level of productivity while maintaining that cybersecurity posture for them. So when you think about cybersecurity, and when I ask many executives in my engagement with them about cybersecurity, what comes to mind? Very often, it will be all of this. They think about the hackers. They think about the threats. They think about their business critical assets. They think about risk management. They think about regulations. They think about threat intelligence. They think about policy management. I get all these conversations coming at me. But at any one time, nobody asks about, what about DNS security? They talk to me about their sandbox. They tell me about their firewall. They tell me about the concerns about, ransomware, but nobody talks about DNS security. And it's not unusual, because DNS security or DNS is not a topic that everybody thinks about. It's just like when you think about plumbing, you don't think about the pipe. You don't think about the water container on top of the building that actually houses the water to bring the water to you through your tap. You don't think about the plumbing behind all of that. You just switch on the tap and you expect water to flow. So in the same way with DNS security as well, DNS and DNS security is a topic which is deeply entrenched. It's not at the surface level. And when you look at the history of the threat and cyber response landscape, right, I want you to pay careful attention to this arrow over here, right? When you have a threat, you have an equal and opposite defense. The point of this slide here for you to take away is that over this period of time, you find that every time there is a threat, there is an equal and opposite response to that threat. But up to somewhere about here, you find that the DNS traffic is relatively unscaled. It's not really touched. It's only at some time here that you find DNS becoming red and redder. So I would like you to, think back to the time when you first encountered WannaCry, when you first encountered the first ransomware, or the first CNC command type malware, or the first type of data exfiltration. Okay, just hold that thought for a moment. So in relation to the previous slides, another way of looking at this is up to, let's say, the time of WannaCry, and let's say WannaCry happened sometime in 2015 as an illustrative discussion. Up to that point, prior to that, everything was all about defending port 80. And that's why we have the firewall, and then we have IPS, we have IDS, and then we have next generation firewall. And then when APT came about, we have sandbox. And then when we have malwares attacking endpoints, we have endpoint protection. And then when we had identity management issues, then we have segmentation firewall, we have privileged access management coming to the picture, and then we have data security, we have email security, we have application security, and then we went on to have a SIM solution. But essentially what all that is building this defense in that environment. And when you look at all the different kinds of security strategies and the security framework that is talking to us about this, like ISO 27001, NIST, or even the cyber fortification, the cyber fortification policy in Hong Kong, right? Even that too, they do not, and they did not talk about the DNS security. There was no mention about that. Okay. I only encountered the mention about the importance of DNS security in CIS, which is the Center of Internet Security, and the most recent TRM. And this is the 2021 TRM that they have mentioned about DNS hijack. But prior to that, every other framework, guidance, strategies that discuss security did not discuss the importance and criticality of DNS. So as a result of that, when we started building defense in depth, it became more and more difficult and more painful for this guy to infiltrate into the organization. So he and his team obviously had a quick huddle to find out, is there another way? Because he's also a businessman, all right? He wants to infiltrate into the organization as easily as possible, as cheaply as possible, with the maximum benefit as he can. So our role as cyber defenders is to make their attempted attack as painful as possible, as expensive as possible, as time-consuming as possible, right? So that they will rethink about attacking us. So the way that they have done this is that they found another channel, and that is port 53, which is the DNS channel. This channel is the channel that updates the security profiles of all your security solutions, and is a direct link into the organization. It's a trusted zone, so to speak. So they started to exploit this. So remember the earlier arrow I asked you to pay attention to when it became redder and redder. So up to 2015, right, when the first WannaCry came into the picture, the first ransomware, what happened after that? We continue to booster the defense in depth. You find that we then started to introduce UEBA. We introduced DLP in an attempt to mitigate against DNS without realizing that it could be a DNS attack. So what happened is that they started using the DNS port as a point of reference, as a point of entry and exit into the organization. Cisco actually, in their 2016 annual security report, indicated that 91% of malware uses the DNS to carry out their campaigns. Whereas Verizon actually indicated that malware with CNC, right, uses the DNS to actually come into the organization. Now, the other thing that happens besides ransomware and CNC, malware coming to the organizations through the DNS is also used for data exfil. So all the major data breaches that we have seen in the past, despite of the best effort of building a defense in depth in the organization, was use the DNS to exploit and to extract data. If you want to find out more about this, I'm happy to have a side conversation, highly contextualized to your business in terms of how can we help you determine and detect when you have a data exfiltration situation. So from that standpoint, now that we know that, it is a failing on our part to look at the DNS, and that's why we are seeing a lot of data exfiltration, why should DNS security be a focus? Well, very, very simple reason. Number one is it's everywhere. Every point of contact seeks out the DNS to get that handshake, to get that permission to get access to your network. And it is a critical part, because without DNS, there will be no network, there will be no connectivity, there will be no connection. The DNS is actually open, is designed, to be open to allow everything to come in. But because of this malicious exploitation of the DNS, we need to rethink and think about DNS security. Okay, as I said just now, DNS is your first point of contact. So right now with DNS security, DNS can also be your first point of defense. Okay, to the earlier point that I mentioned from the two papers, 95% attacks through the DNS, 95% of malware that is, and 68% of organizations do not monitor their DNS traffic, their recursive DNS traffic, which means that this attack can come in unnoticed. Okay, and the unfortunate thing is that, in most instances, DNS is seen as a network function and not as a security function. So in time to come, because of digital transformation, I foresee that cybersecurity and network operations will somehow or other have to collaborate, if not merge, so that you can maintain that level of security, that level of robustness for your organization. So what are the gaps that gets addressed when DNS is secured? Well, firstly, you protect yourself against data exfiltration, because with a secure DNS, you can detect when data is being exfiltrated, even if it is encrypted. If you have a robust security solution, right, you will be able to determine and detect that you have hidden sensitive information in an encrypted SQL query, for example, or in an encrypted DNS query that's trying to go out of your organization. We will be able to detect through with secure DNS, command and control malware communication and propagation, that perhaps when you have a ransomware that gets planted into the organization, the first thing that ransomware will do is communicate back to the host to say, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm waiting for instruction, tell me what do I need to do propagate. And this is where they'll use that DNS channel to communicate. Secure DNS will also give you visibility of infected devices as well as the host, who I mentioned just now. From the host standpoint, you not only see who the host is, but very important, you get the IP address of the host. And same goes for the infected devices as well. The IP address history, very important, of where the device has gone to. And that in itself, feeds into your forensics in future, but at the same time, gives you that necessary internal threat intelligence that's much needed for you to look at how do you contain the threat, because now you can look at those historical IP addresses and then start scanning other devices to see whether have your other machines in the organization actually connected to this IP address. And if it has, to take the proactive action of blocking or quarantining those machines to prevent the spread of that particular ransomware calling back to that malicious site. So threat containment becomes a critical issue. And all these points that I'm talking about right now, I will illustrate it with a use case later on through an illustration of an actual attack that a company is actually experiencing, and what a good DNS solution, or rather a good DDI solution, can actually help you to remediate. Other areas that it will be able to help you to mitigate, it helps you to minimize or mitigate against DDoS. It also helps you to prevent users from accidentally visiting malicious websites. And the reason why this is in this second part is because you do have independent one-point solutions that can also help you with this. But these are all the additional benefits that you get when you secure your DNS. We are able to also help you prevent phishing or minimize phishing. Very, very important for organizations that are moving towards the digital business, moving towards building a digital business, preventing DNS hijack and DNS poisoning. Now, what does this mean? It means that it can redirect traffic, redirect people to a fake traffic. It kills your online business. So all of a sudden, you have no more traffic here. It also impacts your DNS reputation, which means you could become blacklisted. Okay. The other thing is lookalike domains. So if you look at all of these domain names, right, Yahoo here is the original one, whereas these others are lookalike. It's something like watering hole, but not exactly, because this is where when you key in and when you're not careful, you will think that you're still visiting Yahoo, which it looks like Yahoo, but those characters highlighted in yellow are actually different characters. And if you want to see how do they use this, you can go to your Windows character map and open it up, and you'll see a long list of character key set that can be used to actually simulate the letter Y or the letter O. Now, with being the first point of contact, you obviously can do a whitelist of all items, especially when you maintain a policy for the very secured organization. What they do is that they maintain a strategy of only giving out access to manage and approve device. So anything outside of that, right, then becomes shadow IT. So instead of allowing shadow IT to happen or accidentally allowing shadow IT to happen, with DNS, you can then keep as part of your repository a whitelist of approved device, so you minimize shadow IT. And the whole purpose of minimizing shadow IT is for mitigating against data exfiltration, mitigating against that device potential being a backdoor for a hacker to actually infiltrate into your organization. So these are just some of the things that you can look at, to help you manage your security. But then that's just point solutions. You got to go beyond, because the DNS is a rich repository of information that you can use to enhance your security. So DNS is now becoming your first line of defense. So it's a slightly different position now. So just now I talked about DNS and securing the DNS. And now I'm talking about after you have secured DNS, your DNS can become your first line of defense because it is the first point of contact. And you are now not just protecting your DNS traffic, you are going beyond that. And you are using those information that it can capture to improve your time to detection, the accuracy of your time to detection, to improve your accuracy in your investigation, to improve the speed of response and the speed of containment. And in order for you to achieve all of this, you need to think about the ecosystem, the security ecosystem. And for you to expand to that, right, you need to, again, look at your DNS, what I call the DNS collaborators. Because in any environment that you have DNS, you will inevitably have your DHCP that looks at the amount of time that they will list out the IP address, and the IP management. You'll be looking at this tree working in concert together again. So something like the symbiotic relationship, except this one is more tightly close-knit. So when you combine that and all this equals DDI, when you combine all of that, right, DDI plus cybersecurity, these are the key benefits that you get. All the benefits of secure DNS, plus you get visibility, you get manageability, because now you get better control over your network. You can drive greater automation, right? You can drive greater business alignment, because remember the pivot that I was talking about just now? When your business pivots, your network will pivot with your business, and your security needs to pivot with your business. This becomes an important foothold for you to talk about business alignment. Okay, you can, as a result of that business alignment, you can drive better business resiliency, because now you're able to defend yourself against the threats that matters, to your organization, and you will start looking at your vulnerabilities, which is within your sphere of influence, to minimize your security exposure. And you can improve the security for your digital transformation. One of the challenges that I know that many security professionals have on their digital transformation journey is that because digital transformation is so fluid, so much in flux, it's just like how COVID has forced all of us to work from home. And when companies were not prepared for it, they had a mad rush to just get the workers their notebooks, give them access, and just take the risk and pray that they don't get hacked in that process. Unfortunately, during that time, hackers were also very busy. There was a lot of scam, there was a lot of attacks. In fact, some of the CERT website, the Hong Kong CERT website, for example, actually indicated that there has been a surge of ransomware attacks, because they know that a work from home situation is when an employee is actually connecting back to the corporate office without that corporate enterprise robust security posture. So how does this fit to a bigger picture? So on one hand, I was talking about securing your DNS. Now I'm talking about the telemetry and information from DNS being your first line of defense to secure your entire organization. And how do we do that? So we have this Tide, which is something like a threat intelligence exchange platform, and we are able to ingest the different kinds of feeds into this, and from those feeds identify the different kinds of compromises and send that across to your entire security stack. And I'll illustrate this through an actual walkthrough in just a moment. Okay, so the feeds can come from, in this case, you can acquire it from my company, or you can get it from the government. You can get it from the marketplace, meaning that you may buy it from somewhere, or you can get custom feeds. And what we provide you in terms of threat intelligence feeds are internal feeds, which is from the DNS, and these external feeds as well. Okay, all these so that you can harmonize your security posture of your entire security stack. So what do I mean by that? So taking that previous example, so let's say for instance, one of your machines have been ransomware, one of the PCs. So the first thing the first thing that the ransomware machine will do is to call back to the host. So remember I mentioned to you just now, it will capture the IP address. So you capture the IP address of the host. And at the same time, because they detect that this is CNC, this traffic communication will be blocked. And at the same time, we will detect that this machine has been compromised. So we will be able to send a telemetry to communicate with the MAC to stop all communication to this PC. At the same time, we will also be able to communicate with the SOC to inform that this is the IP address that has been that is blocked. So to inform your next-gen endpoint, your next-gen firewall, and your next-gen gateway to block all traffic coming from this particular IP address. You can also immediately take advantage of that and do a quick scan to see whether other PCs that have gone to that, other PCs looking at their historical information, their historical DNS, or rather more precisely, the historical IPAM information, has actually gained access to those websites so that you can identify those PCs and do the necessary correction as well. As all that is happening, the DNS information can be sent to your ITSM to send a help desk ticket so that you can have human interface and human assistant to address and to remediate those machines. Now, all this information that we're giving can be shared with the SIM to access, to enrich your incident management, and at the same time, your SOAR to enrich your security orchestration. Now, just to clarify, the DNS security that we're giving right now is to protect the DNS. It's the information that comes from the DNS that uses all of your existing security stack to be able to work in harmony together to drive this. At the same time, because of Tide, as I mentioned just now, this threat interchange, right? We are able to share those security indication of compromise so that the security posture across all of this become consistent. Now, the whole benefit, besides having a harmonized and consistent, robust security posture, is the ability to respond and to minimize the breach impact over time. Because we all know that in the first 24 hours, the breach impact is at the highest. But imagine if all that is working in concert, you can minimize your response time to less than 24 hours, maybe here, maybe 6 hours, maybe here, maybe 10 hours. But whatever the case is, you reduce the impact to the business. DNS information can also be used as a single source of truth, as seen over here in this compliance report, whereby they are asking you about the domain name, the IP address, so that when you file in the report, they can then launch that necessary investigation for them to be effective and efficient in determining exactly what happened. So the key takeaway in my presentation today is that you should start thinking about securing your DNS, because if you do not, your DNS is a very open platform, and that being an open platform is a huge vulnerability. But when secured, right, it can become the foundation of your enterprise security. So there's 2 points I want you to take note over here: secure DNS and first line of defense. So your DNS is the foundation of your network, because right now you are building a digital business, and therefore, as a result of that, your network is your business. To the earlier point, your first line of contact can be your first line of defense. When combined with IPAM and DHCP, it delivers greater value. So earlier, as I illustrated, the sum of these few, DNS, DHCP, and IPAM, yields many, many benefits. And some of them includes improved detection accuracy, improved response speed, threat containment, as well as assistance in recovery. And the DNS information, because DNS resides and is consistent on-prem, on your cloud, on your virtual environment, at your machines, it can be used as a single source of truth for your incident reporting. So to find out more how we can help you contextualize all this information, please contact us for a highly engaging and contextualized discussion. With that, thank you very much.